La 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 la. Bum bum bum. Digga-da-dum, digga-da-da-da-dum.
Hello and welcome to Andre Sue Knits. I'm Andy and welcome to this little show about knitting, spinning. Yes, I have some spinning this time and general craftiness. And it looks like, my cat Tallulah has decided to join today. I've got a couple giveaways to wrap up. I've got a new giveaway to announce. I'm going to share that at the end of the episode. And after last episode, I got a few questions about virtual knit nights. And I thought it might be fun to set up a thread in the group. If you're interested in finding a group for a virtual knit night, you could sign up and I can then put people together in groups of about 8. The interesting thing, or the thing to keep in mind when doing virtual knit nights, is that, if you have a regular knit night, like a knitting group that you join up with, you can have it at any size because you can have side conversations going on, in this corner or that side of the room. But in a virtual knit night, everybody is in one big chat room and it's one conversation. And in my experience, if you have too many voices going on, people get left out, everyone can't talk. I find the best number for a chat room is about 6 people, 8 people pushing it. So for those who are interested in finding a knit group, like an online knit group, I'll open a thread. You can put your name in there. And if we have enough participants, I can put you in groups of maybe 6 or 7. I use Google Chat generally when I do virtual knit nights. I've used an app called Zoom, but I believe whoever hosts, bye Tallulah, whoever hosts the Zoom chat group has to pay. Not really sure. I'm happy to organize you into groups, but I cannot be the tech support if you guys have trouble using Google Chat. So anyway, check that out if you're interested. On to some spinning. I want to show you some yarn I recently finished. So you can't be too impressed by this because this has been sitting on my spinning wheel months, probably. It took me a while to actually spin the singles, and then I finally plied them together. This is a 2-ply. And it's just been sitting on my spinning wheel for a long time, and I finally took it off my wheel and washed it and let it dry. And this was made from Hobbledehoy batlets. I think the color was flannel, and these batlets might have come from her club. She's got a batlet club, but I think it's aptly named. I do think it looks like flannel, and I really, really like it. It's about a worsted weight, maybe a DK weight, and I didn't measure the yardage, so I have no idea how much yardage I have here. I don't even know how much it weighs. It's been that long. I would say more than 100 grams, and I have no idea what it's going to become. But I'm glad it's off my wheel. I took it off the wheel mainly because I wanted to put something new on my wheel. Most of you probably know I have an Angora bunny named Buddha. And I love the idea of collecting this fiber and spinning with it. But, I'm new to the whole bunny management and bunny grooming and bunny clipping. And Buddha's kind of a spunky little guy. He's not really a fan of being brushed, and he lets you know. We get out the brush and start brushing him. He tolerates it for, maybe 30 seconds, and he thumps at us and runs off, or he'll grunt at us, and if we try to keep holding him, he'll bite us. Not hard, but enough to say, hey, I'm not happy with this. He lets us know how he's feeling when he's feeling it. So it's been a challenge to try to approach Buddha as a fiber animal. And as his fur grows long, he seems to get hot and uncomfortable, and some parts of his fur get a little matted, and again, he doesn't like the brush. So we've just been keeping him clipped pretty short. He does not like getting a haircut either. But Rachel wanted to let his fur grow out. The weather's changing. It's getting a little cooler. And even though he's an indoor bunny, it just seemed like a little less cruel to let his fur grow in as the weather is changing. So we let him grow, but he was getting really, really shaggy, and his underneath was getting a little bit matted, and he wasn't letting us brush him. So we decided to go ahead and clip him. But since we let his fur grow out long enough, when we clipped him with scissors, using shears is a whole nother issue. We have not mastered how to use the shears. We used our dog grooming shears on him and it wouldn't cut his fur. So then we went out and got a set of shears, like clippers for him, that were touted as being great for clipping bunny fur. But we cannot make, like, I have no idea how people use them. They won't cut Buddha's fur. So I use scissors. And we have to cut him in stages. When we first bring him out, he loves to be petted, especially if he's on the floor. So we pet him and sort of stealthily clip his fur. And I was trying to clip it close to the skin so I could get as much length as possible so I could perhaps preserve his fur for spinning. I figured if it was at least, like, I would say it's about 1.25 inches long in most spots, that would be long enough for spinning, especially if I spun it kind of fine. So that's what we did. But Buddha, even though we were petting him, kind of caught on to the fact that we were cutting his fur and protested, so we had to take breaks. The worst is getting his underneath, because there's no way to do it stealthily. He just isn't having any part of it. So it takes Abigail and Rachel hold him so I can cut his fur. And I feel kind of mean doing it. I don't enjoy doing it, but I don't know how to do it any other way. So we do it in small increments of time. And I collected quite a bit of his fur. So here's 1 gallon Ziploc bag of fur. And this one was full. I've been turning it into Rolags. So he produces a lot of fiber. The reason I haven't used his fur previously is because it was short, and because I'm so new to bunny grooming, I would kind of cut it down, and so each of the pieces of fur would be just too short for spinning. So this time I got his fur and clipped it down once, just one cut, so it was as long as possible. Now I have a book that I've been reading called A Handbook for Spinners, Angora. And I pulled this, I've had this for a while. I bought it when we were thinking about getting a bunny. And I pulled it out to see how to prepare the Angora, especially because it's shorter than, say, prime plucked Angora, which is about 2.5 inches long. And you can see this was on the bottom shelf, and Buddha has helped himself to the book. He's taken some bites out of the book. And it turns out there's several grades of Angora. There's like what's called prime plucked, which is when the bunny is molting, you like pull out those loose bits of fur, and they're about 2.5 inches long, and they're considered like the premium bunny fur. And a lot of people have asked me, like, why are you shearing your bunny or cutting his fur when he looks to be an English Angora, which molts, and so when they molt, you're supposed to pluck the fur and collect it that way. And some people will actually put their bunny on their lap when it's molting and just pluck the fur off of the bunny and feed it into their spinning wheel and spin straight from the bunny. But our bunny would never allow that. I cannot even imagine Buddha sitting in our lap long enough for me to like pluck out his fur and spin from him. I don't think he'd have any part of that. And while it appears that he might be molting now, like when we pulled on his fur, bits of it came out. But I just am not comfortable with grabbing his fur and pulling on it. I just feel like I might be hurting him. I'm just way more comfortable with cutting his fur, which means the fur I get or the fiber I get is not going to be prime. It's not going to be super long, but it still is usable. I think what we get from Buddha is considered like a grade 2 Angora, which is best typically blended with other fibers, especially because the bits of fiber I'm getting are so short. It's best, from what I've read, to blend it with longer stapled fiber. So I'm choosing to blend Buddha's fur with a merino, just a white merino that I have. And I've been using my hand carders to do the blending and to turn them into rollags. It's been a long time since I've used my hand carders. I'm not an expert with hand carders, so it's taken a little bit of experimentation to kind of get the hang of it, but I think I'm getting the hang of it now. Let me show you what a rollag looks like. So this is the rollag I'm getting, and there are some second cuts in Buddha's fur, even though I tried to avoid it. And from what I've read, the little tiny second cuts will either become neps in the finished yarn, or they will just fall out and shed out of the yarn. But these rollags are super light and fluffy, and I've started spinning them. My intent was to spin fine, but the rollags really want to become a little heftier. I think I'm going to end up with a worsted weight 2-ply, which is totally fine. So I'm just going to go with what the rollags want to be versus fighting it and having a tougher time with it. And after reading this book, I think I'm happier with the blended yarns than I would with a prime plucked Angora, 100% Angora yarn. She provides some pictures of what that yarn ends up looking like knitted up, and I don't think it's my style. It actually looks like she's wearing a bunny pelt. So it turns out that if you use the long 2-inch prime plucked Angora, spin it into a yarn, the ends end up poking out, and it looks really, really shaggy. And this is not a style I think I would want for myself. She's got another example in here of where she just does the sleeves in that prime plucked Angora yarn, and I think it looks a little silly. If I'm honest, that is not a sweater I would want for myself. She does show an example here of, let me find it. She does show an example here of prime grade 1 Angora spun in 2 different ways. The one here, the super furry one, is the one spun worsted style where all the hairs are aligned. And this hat here is when the Angora has been carded. So the hairs have been tangled a little bit more, which prevents it from the ends from poking out and making your finished garment look furry. I think that looks like fun fur. So I think I'm going to be happier with the rollag. I'm still going to get a really light, lofty yarn from what I can tell. That'll have somewhat of a halo, but won't look like I'm wearing a rabbit on my head if I choose to knit a hat. So I thought that was interesting. And it'll be fun to see how it turns out in the end. On to some knitting. For knitting, I've decided I want to try to get some of my works in progress off my needles. I don't have a ton of projects going, but the ones that I do have going are taking forever, and I feel like I really want to focus and finish some of those up so I can concentrate on some new things. And the first thing I finished up was a pair of socks. I knit these out of a sock blank that I dyed months ago, and these have actually been on my needles probably for a month or 2. So I'm glad they're off the needles. Not a lot to say about these. I just use the Hermione's everyday sock texture on the leg and the foot. They're toe up in the round on 2 circular needles. And I knit these on size 0. And they don't match exactly, but I think they look like they belong together. I was going to show you the rest of the sock blank, but I can't seem to find it, so I don't think it matters much, though. You get the idea. They're just socks. The other thing I worked on, I actually don't have to show you because I threw it in the trash. I showed you this book a while ago, Knit Your Own Pet. I bought the book because I thought the bunny in particular was super adorable. And just a reminder, that's what it looks like. And I like knitting my stuffies on with sock weight yarn. I like when they turn out teensy. I think they're super cute. So I cast this on in a sock yarn or a sock weight yarn, Knit Picks palette, 2-ply Knit Picks palette. And it was kind of a disaster. I don't know if it's because I used such a small yarn and small needles that it felt really, really fiddly. But this bunny is knit in pieces, and quite a few pieces. You start with knitting legs, and you have to knit ears, and then you have to knit a piece down the middle that's only 4 stitches wide that you have to then, when you're finishing it, sew it to the body. I mean, I found it overly complex, and when dealing with such a small gauge yarn or fabric, like taking something that is 4 stitches wide and trying to mattress stitch it to the body was a holy nightmare. So I threw it away. I sort of wish I had kept it so I could show you. I think I have a picture though I can insert. So I don't know. I might give this another try on a much larger gauge yarn. I think if I had that piece that goes down the center that's 4 stitches wide and it was, say, at least a worsted weight, it might be easier to mattress stitch to the body. The other issue I had with it is, so you're doing that, but you have to ease it in to the body. It's not a stitch for stitch matchup. So yeah, it was really, really fiddly. I didn't like it. But I'm not ready to give up on this book yet. So I'll let you know. I might try the bunny again, but in a worsted weight because he really is cute. So I'll keep you posted on that. Other knitting, I picked back up my Rhinebeck sweater. This might look familiar. It is the Improv Sweater pattern from Fringe Association, which really isn't much of a pattern as much as it is a recipe of how to knit your own custom raglan sweater from the top down. And there's a lot of instructions on how to insert your own pattern, like stitch pattern on the front. I chose to just insert this little diamond pattern on mine. But I've got one sleeve down and one sleeve to go. So I hope by the next time we talk, I'll have this actually finished. I really, really am looking forward to getting the sweater. The yarn is a classic elite yarn. It's called Magestic Tweed, and it is really, really soft. There's a lot of knots in it, I've found as I'm knitting along, so I'm going to have a lot of ends to weave in. But I really am enjoying working with this yarn despite all the knots I'm finding. And I think the thing I like most about this yarn has got to be the Angora content. It's got 10% Angora, and it really gives it a nice silky feel and a slight halo. Now, as I've been researching how to collect Buddha's fiber and what to do with it, I've stumbled across a few websites that talk about commercial Angora production that really are disturbing. And it made me really concerned about this particular sweater because 90% of Angora is produced commercial, like industrial produced Angora that you would find in like major yarn brands. 90% of it comes from China, where there's no protection for animals. And the way they harvest the fur from the rabbits in China is pretty horrific. If you're interested in horrifying yourself, you can do a search yourself. And I read that it was actually became into the public awareness about a year ago, and a lot of major yarn manufacturers quit producing Angora yarns or yarns with Angora because they couldn't source it cruelty-free. So it kind of made me sick to my stomach about this particular sweater. There's no way I would want to walk around wearing a sweater with the fiber from bunnies that were tortured, essentially. But what I found about this particular yarn is that it is cruelty-free. Classically sources their Angora from producers in Italy, which made me feel a lot better about this particular sweater and this particular yarn. Because my conception or impression of bunnies before I got Buddha was that, there wasn't much to them. They were just like docile little creatures that didn't have much of a personality, but we have not found that to be true. We think Buddha is every bit of a character as our cats or our dogs. He's very smart, very sweet, and definitely has his own will. So, yeah, I think if I'm going to work with yarns that contain Angora, I will definitely do a little research before purchasing the yarn to make sure it's not coming from China. I just do not at all want to support an industry that treats their animals so badly. So, and I know I'm not alone, because the backlash from what I've read to yarn manufacturers using Angora sourced from China has been pretty harsh. In fact, put those yarn lines out of production. So just food for thought in case you weren't aware of that. I was not aware of that until this week, actually. So, so gonna work on finishing this. I have one other sweater on my needles. It's a fingering weight colorworks sweater called Next Year in Lerwick. So I want to get that off my needles. And I think what I'm going to put on my needles next, once I get these other sweaters finished, is, I can't remember the name of it. My friend Eric from Sticks Plus Twine, he and I were chatting, and I decided there's a particular sweater pattern he wants to knit, but I didn't write it down. And he wanted a very particular color yarn for that sweater. And we were chatting, and I'm like, I can dye that for you if you're interested in a regular worsted weight merino yarn, because I had plenty of bare worsted merino yarn in my stash. And he said, sure. So I busted out the dye pots and dyed up a whole bunch of this yarn. Let me show you. It's pretty crazy colorway. Eric was after chartreuse, and I think this came out a little more apple green than of course, Eric's sweet. He says he loves it and it's perfect. But looking at it, I'm like, he might have wanted it maybe a little bit more brown and a little less bright. But I end up always doing brights. I don't know why. But I dyed up a bunch of this, and I gave him enough for the sweater pattern he had in mind, and I kept 7. I have 700-gram skeins of this for myself. And I was telling him we could be sweater twins. Maybe next year at Rhinebeck, we'll wear the same sweater. So I'm going to try to finish up the sweaters that are on my needles so I can cast on this. And next time we talk, I'll know what the pattern is. It's pretty. It's got a bunch of cables, and there's a male version and a female version. But I don't like the female version. They're not quite the same. So I think I'm going to knit the man sweater for myself, and I can do a few modifications to make it a little bit more perfect for me. Maybe like a little scoopier neck line and maybe a little waist shaping. Although I don't really like waist shaping on my pullovers. I prefer waist shaping on my cardigans, but not my pullovers. I don't know why. And Eric and I named this, but I didn't write it down. It's something along the lines of Rhinebeck why are your leaves still green? Forgive me, Eric. It's something like that. Next time we talk, I'll have the name written down of this particular colorway. So that might be up next on my needles. I've also been giving my Cozy Memories blanket some love. It's that time of year again. I think it's going to be a great project to sit on the front porch when it's a little bit chilly and just wrap myself in this while working on it. And it's gotten rather big. I think this is like 13 squares wide, and I think it's 12 squares deep now. Yeah. I put quite a few more squares in it on my way to and from, well, really to Rhinebeck. It was dark on the way back, so I couldn't really work on it. And this is the newest row. And this is a little, I think this is Nomadic Yarns from Eric that he gave me at Rhinebeck. He had finished up his socks at dinner, and he handed me the ball of yarn to turn into minis for everybody there. And his friend Ramona actually had one of those little scales, which, you know, handy in her bag. So we busted that out and divvied it up into 5-gram little mini skeins, and he passed them around, which was really, really sweet. So this is my Eric Rhinebeck square. So yeah, it's going to be difficult to put this in one shot. It's huge. Well, relatively speaking. I think it needs to still double in size before I will consider it done. Speaking of Rhinebeck and our experience there, my youngest daughter, Rachel, had such a good time, loves the community, loves the people. Now, she's dabbled in knitting off and on for a while, but her trip to Rhinebeck really inspired her to pick up her knitting again. And she is working on a hat. And I hope next time we talk, she'll join us and share a little bit about how that's going for her. Yeah, we've talked about some potential knitting retreats and things like that, and Rachel's really, really interested in it, and it would be great if she was my travel companion and went down that rabbit hole with me. She says it's really soothing, and she's really enjoying it as she's watching a show. When she sits down in the evening and is turned on some show, she's sitting down with her knitting, and she's made some good progress on her hat. I'll show it to you. It looks like this so far. So I cast on for her, and then the rest has been up to her. And she picked out this yarn from the stash. It came in the knit crate I showed you a while ago. This is that EchoView yarn, and it's really, really soft. EchoView, what's in it? It's DK with merino and silk. So, yay! I haven't really been working on my knitting machine since I got back from Rhinebeck, although I've been thinking about my knitting machine. I recently went on Knit Picks and found a clearance yarn. It's their Capretta, which is basically an MCN fingering weight yarn that was on clearance, and I got a sweater quantity of this for under $40. So I'm really excited about that. It's hard to find or to be able to knit a MCN merino cashmere nylon sweater for less than $40. So I was excited about that find. I think I'm going to try to do some cabling. I got a solid color so I could work with pattern, and the pattern could really pop out on the sweater. So I'm thinking light cables, maybe a cardigan. Yeah, so that's the plan for the knitting machine. I still want to try out the Intarsia cartridge. I still haven't tried any worsted weight on it. There's just so many things I want to do, and it's hard to bring my focus in. I think what really got me off track was collecting Buddhist fiber and doing the research for that, and getting the other yarn off my wheel really took up my attention, and I'm excited to have some actual yarn from my bunny. But yeah, so this might be next up on my machine. I really like the color. I just need to pick out some patterns and do some swatching so I can figure out sizing. But even though I haven't been using my machine, I've still been thinking about it. I've picked up a few, a few books on machine knitting, which I've flipped through, but I haven't read. This one is by the lady who does the Craftsy class. So I expect this to be an excellent book because she's so knowledgeable. And even looking at the design on the front, I have no idea how she did this on a knitting machine. So I'm excited to take a peek inside and learn. I also picked up, this one I got used on Amazon probably, The Machine Knitter's Guide to the River. I don't own a river, but I hope to own a river. And so I thought doing a little research before I made my purchase made sense. So this book is really old and dated. I think it looks like it's from the 80s. Yeah, 1988. But, you know, the Machine Rivers, my machine's from 1968, so I'm sure this will still be applicable to what I'm doing now. She's happily knitting with her river attached to her machine. Yeah, the rivers are interesting because you've got your regular machine bed, and the river is like attaching another needle bed to your original machine. So it's almost like working with two machines at the same time. And it looks like there's 2 cartridges. So I haven't even cracked this one open yet to read about it. It's on my to-do list. Another one by Susan, who's the instructor in the Craftsy class, Hand Manipulated Stitches for Machine Knitters. And I will definitely be referring to this for the cabling. I haven't really looked inside this one either. I've bought them, but I haven't read them yet. And this one looks like it's straight out the 80s too. This one had really good reviews, but when you look at the back cover, yeah, the style is really, really dated. I have flipped through this one, and a lot of the sweaters in here have drop shoulders and serious 80s styling, so I don't know if I'm going to keep this one because I'm not interested in inserting shoulder pads and having drop shoulders. I might have when I was 13, but probably not today. So that's it for machine knitting, just researching basically. I have done some crafting since the last time we talked. I did a little embroidered elephant piece, and then which is already gifted in the hands of the recipient. And that inspired me to make a gift for another friend who is expecting. And I found this as a free pattern online. If I can find it again, I will link to it. But I just thought it was sweet. I decided to do a little bit of hand embroidery on it and embroidered the face and then stitched it together. And I really enjoyed this. I found that there's a whole world of cloth dolls out there and people who make them. There's a lot of Etsy sellers who make and sell beautiful cloth dolls. So making this piqued my interest in that whole craft. Even though my girls are older, they're really not interested in dolls anymore. It didn't stop me from ordering some books. A lot of these I got used on Amazon. And when you get them used, it's really a pretty good deal. So I figure if I don't like them or don't use them, then I can just pass them along myself. But I got Making of a Rag Doll, and I really like the modern aesthetic on these. I was talking to my girls about my interest in making rag dolls, and they said that they would be interested in them, especially if instead of putting the dolls in a dress like this, if I modified them to look like their favorite superheroes or anime characters. So that might be kind of a fun challenge. I got this one too, Storybook Toys. And my thought is it would give me the basic instructions, patterns, recipe for creating the dolls so that I could modify them to meet my needs, or you know what I mean. Then I also got this one, We Make Dolls, which has, it says top doll makers share their secrets and patterns. So a bunch of different designers share how they are making their toys. And if you do a search on Etsy for rag dolls, I mean, you'll be blown away by the artistry. I didn't know this whole genre of handcrafted creations even existed, but they're remarkable and beautiful. So we'll see. If nothing else, I've really enjoyed reading about how other people are making them. It's really fascinating. And yeah, here's the back of this one. The artistry and the design is, I don't know what else to say besides remarkable. I really, really enjoy it. So yeah, so that's it for craftiness. So we've got 2 giveaways to take care of. The first one is by Claire, who runs the Woolly Thistle. And she donated 3 gorgeous skeins of yarn that are all going together into one giveaway. And I used random.org to select a winner. And it selected post 260, which is Snatestein. I think I said that right. So congratulations. If you'll message me on Ravelry with your address, I'll get your yarns in the mail to you right away. And the other giveaway we have to wrap up is the yarns from Dingo Dye Works with the pattern Blossom Field that goes with it. And again, I used a random number generator, and it selected post 272, who is Rossberry Crafts. So congratulations. And if you'll message me your address, I'll get those out into the mail for you ASAP. And with that said, we also have another giveaway to announce. Sharon from Knit Style Yarns. She also has a podcast. I think it was formerly known as the TV Knitting Podcast, but she's rebranded it Knit Style. Has donated a hank of yarn for a giveaway. And it is beautiful. It is called Pumpkin Spice Latte, which is perfect for this season. And it's on our trendy sock. It's a 75% superwash merino, 25% nylon 4-ply yarn. And it is beautiful. So I'm going to open up a thread for a giveaway for this yarn. I'm not really great at coming up with creative prompts for the giveaways. So if you'll just say hello and reply to that thread so you have a post in that thread, it will enter you for a chance to win this gorgeous yarn from Sharon. I think that's all I have for you this time. Quick reminder, if you are interested in being part of a virtual knit night group, check out the thread. And if we get enough participants, I'll organize you into groups. I recommend using Google Hangout. But if somebody in the group knows of something better, you know, it'll be up to you guys to decide once you're grouped together how you guys want to proceed. I wish I could be tech support on it, but I think I would add more frustration than help, I'm pretty sure. So anyway, thank you guys so much for joining me as always, and until next time, bye.
La 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 la.